This is Veranda Porch, and a couple of years ago, we wrote this song inspired by Cindy Sheehan, and we've come and crashed the rally to sing it for you today. Like this one, right? Okay, you're the microphone stand. Blood meets oil out on Prairie Chapel Road. Not such a long walk at all. Gold Star mother, she wants what she is owed. Why did her baby have to fall? Alibi, lullaby, who's balancing our lives as the president bikes by? Piety streets, one block over from desire. Not such a long walk at all. Oil and bayou water flood, catch on fire. See prophets writing on the wall. Alibi, lullaby. If you are somewhere else, you won't have to die. On a chorus of lies. That way madness lies, and love lies bleeding in the garden. Lie down with the dog. The fleas, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. Shoes abandoned across a plasma screen. Not such a long walk at all. Prayer and rumor hook up, death stampedes. When a wake up call. Alibi, lullaby. Will the old river ever stop rolling and run dry? Help us out one more time. We've got alibi, lullaby. The old river. Will the old river ever stop rolling and run dry? Yes.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. Turn off your cell phones, please. Thank you very much for coming. This is a great crowd, a lot of people. This is our 12th stop since Friday morning. We've covered the entire state of Vermont. We went to the State House where we got sandbagged by Vincent Luzzi and his committee. And then we went to the people where we received a joyous, packed house reception in every town we visited. From Middlebury, Burlington, Hardwick, St. Johnsbury, Bradford, Rutland, Castleton, Springfield, Manchester, and Brattleboro. Thank you. And I would also say to all of you, including those of you who disagree with us, welcome. And please have a seat. It'll be a little while. Make yourselves comfortable. We welcome you. And I can tell you this 3 days for me has been an amazing honor. The people you will meet tonight, after you hear them speak, you will know why I feel so honored. And initially, I would like to introduce you to two fine Vermont veterans who are here to tell you some stories that'll make you think. And first of all, I would like to introduce, from Sharon, Vermont, Adrian Kinney.
Thank you. Well, actually, I do think that this is a story that everybody should hear. I was an Arabic linguist in the United States Army and Army Reserves from 1994 to 2004. After 9/11, I was activated with my reserve unit. I was stationed stateside the whole time, serving in military intelligence. And I can just tell you that, just really briefly about the part of the military intelligence and all of this, that there's been a lot in the news about how our military intelligence failed you, but really, we were not the ones who failed you. 4 years ago, I questioned the intelligence we collected because the people who were passing us this information had every reason to want us to invade Iraq. And I said that 4 years ago, and I was told by my commander that I didn't care about our mission, our unit, our troops in Kuwait, our troops in Iraq, our country. And, you know, it was just, the president didn't care if the information was factual. He just wanted something to show America that, you know, Iraq needed to be invaded. That's really the bottom line. I mean, and that's really just all I want to say about that. Because since leaving the military, I've chosen to go back to school. I went to school for my degree in psychology. And I wanted to help veterans. I did my internships at VA hospitals. I've been working in a VA hospital for over a year now. And I can just tell you that from working with our veterans, they are crying out, all of them, for America to realize that they are there. When I was in Richmond, Virginia, working at the VA there, I saw a lot of active duty soldiers who are just coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan and other places. And that's the first time, this is the first time in our history that the VA is seeing active duty soldiers, because our Department of Defense hospitals cannot keep up with demand. Now, you might have heard a lot about what's going on with Walter Reed now and how they fired the general who was in charge of Walter Reed, and somehow that's supposed to make a difference. Only they replaced him with the general who was in charge of Walter Reed in 2004, when all these problems were happening way back then. These problems are not new. These problems have been going on since day one. These problems aren't isolated to Walter Reed. At Fort Stewart in 2003, there were problems with wounded veterans coming back and being put in cinder block barracks where there were no bathrooms. And you know, wounded veterans having to hobble on crutches through sand to get to the bathroom, not in Iraq or Kuwait, but at Fort Stewart, Georgia. That is just unacceptable. The way our government has been treating and the way they have not been providing our active duty soldiers and our veterans is just very unacceptable. And I just want to share with you some of the stories told to me by people that I have spoken to at the VA. I have spoken to a soldier who befriended an Iraqi family, and the Iraqi man and his son would come out and help the Americans over in Iraq, and the Iraqi son would be walking around barefoot. He didn't have anything to wear on his feet. And so the soldier thought that he would give the son a pair of his old sneakers so that he was at least not barefoot through the streets. They might not fit perfectly, but at least he would have something. A few days later, the father came back, and he didn't have his son with him. And the soldier went over there and asked him, what happened to your son? Where is he? Just asking, And the father in broken English tried to explain that his son had been murdered. And that soldier thinks that child was murdered because he was wearing American sneakers. I've spoken to active duty soldiers who have seen their friends' heads crushed by Humvees. I've spoken to soldiers who they got hit by an IED and they woke up with so much blood and body parts that they didn't know whose body parts, whether they were their own or somebody else's, laying on them. I've spoken to an active duty soldier who is an MP in Greece. And he said that he has seen our government do things to people that nobody should ever have to see. And that he has nightmares every night because of things he witnessed. And he said, of course, that he could not speak about things because he still felt bound by the classified nature of these acts. So putting two and two together, I kind of came to the conclusion that he was talking about the torture of prisoners that are taking place in these non-existent secret European prisons that are being run by our government, where they are torturing people right now. And that is against so many laws that I just don't even know where to begin. So, Congress, the president just keeps doing whatever he's doing. Our government does what it does. Congress says, no, we need to stop this. We're going to pass a new law that says we will not torture people. The president signed that law into power, and then he attached a signing statement saying that he didn't have to follow that law. That if he felt that he needed to torture people to get information to support this war on terror, that he was going to do it. Except for he's not the one doing it. He is asking his soldiers to torture people. And then he's asking them, they have to live with what they do for the rest of their lives. He is putting this presidency above the law, and soldiers are bound by an oath to defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And this president is the #1 domestic enemy to our United States Constitution. These signing statements to laws saying that he is above the law, the media likes to spin that and say that that's been happening for forever. It doesn't really mean anything, but no president has done that to the extent and to the level that this president has done that. And that will have repercussions if it goes unchecked for our Constitution, our government, our America, our way of life for generations. That if we allow him to keep on doing what he's doing without putting him in his place, he is a president there to serve us, not the other way around. And it's about time we say that he is doing things that we no longer agree with. He is breaking our Constitution. He is doing so many things, I don't even know where to begin. And it is just sad that it has gotten to that point where there are so many things to put on the list, and yet nothing has been done. And this is the time, right now, for us to do something. And just really quickly, because I do feel for our veterans, at the same time that he is creating these veterans, he's saying that he is going to freeze and or cut VA funding. And we already don't have enough resources to go around. That is a fact. That's not a story. It is a fact. We are putting veterans on waiting lists for mental health. 6 months down the road, maybe somebody will see you. That is unacceptable. We are his veterans. Unfortunately, he has created us, and then he is turning his back on us. And that is unacceptable, and that I really hope that all of you will make sure that your representatives know that that is unacceptable. Thank you.
So it's pretty easy to see why I feel so honored to be in the presence of these people. Now I'd like to introduce to you Matt Howard.
Thank you, Dan. So, as you all now know, we have been followed all day by this right-wing warmonger contingent that has come up from Virginia, I think, paid by the Republican Party. And Phil wants me to be investigated for war crimes because I have been going around telling people that we are killing women and children in Iraq. So now he has said that they've contacted the Pentagon and they are actively looking into investigating me. And I say, great, bring it. 'Cause I've been asking us to investigate this from the second I saw it happening in Iraq, and that was in 2003 with the United States Marine Corps during the initial invasion. All right, I would love an investigation into this war. I would love to get an investigation into this president. That is why we're here. So thank you for doing us such a favor. Interesting. So he came up to me in Rutland this morning and he said, you know what, I said, man, you know what, you're just lying. I don't really want to talk to you. I'm not going to, dignify your presence. He said, no, I said, look, you just said you saw weapons of mass destruction. He's like, man, I really did see weapons of mass destruction. He said, they paid $500 to some Iraqi national and he saw them. So the whole world has been looking for weapons of mass destruction. And Mr. Phil over here found them, but he didn't tell anybody. So that's, I guess that's dereliction of duty, so I guess maybe he should be investigated as well. You're right, no, I shouldn't be dignifying their presence by talking to them, but it does give me a good segue into weapons of mass destruction. So, if you want to talk about true weapons of mass destruction, we are using something called depleted uranium in Iraq. And my battalion, 1st Tank Battalion, was using this solely as their ammunition. And this has been the true weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. What happens was we use this as spent nuclear fuel. And we don't have to use it, but it's free. We can use other hard metals. We use it because it penetrates armor. I can't.
I think it's a bit of a disturbance here.
Okay.
Keep talking. Look on.
Anyway.
Keep the microphone over there.
So we use depleted uranium because it is an extremely dense material and it's quite effective at piercing armor. Well, the problem with this is when it does go through armor, it instantly vaporizes. And all these tiny aerosol particles float up into the air and they stay there. I guess it takes 2 to 3 days for them to come down. And they come down, they live in the dust, and they live there for another 500 million years. And this is what we're using in Iraq. We're still using this. This is munitions to pierce armor, to go through tanks. There's no tanks in Iraq. This is a guerrilla insurgency. And yet, here we are, still using this weapon. And it's poisoning their soil, it's poisoning their water, it's poisoning their air until basically eternity. Birth defects have gone up, absolutely. We started using this, in the Gulf War, and a lot of people are attributing Gulf War syndrome to this. And yet nobody is talking about it. I go down to the VA routinely and say, can I get tested? I've definitely had possible exposure. And they say, it's always a different story each time. I don't know if the test exists, come back next time. And we're still using this today. That is a true weapon of mass destruction. So, let's get to the war crimes then. So, I have maintained that we are killing women and children. And, unfortunately, this is the sick, disgusting, horrendous cost of war. This is, you do not go to war against a country and not go to war with its people. It's just that simple. We are at war with the people of Iraq, and the people of Iraq never did anything to us. They say we're there to liberate them. Make no mistake, I was never there to liberate them. It was made very clear to me from the get-go. I was given a pallet of humanitarian rations to put on my truck. I guess they were just PR, because as soon as I started handing them out, my first sergeant came up to me with an M16 pointing in my face and said, "Let me see you hand out another one to another Iraqi child." And so I drove to Baghdad. Meanwhile, all the officers are coming and pillaging them because they had strawberry jam, which our meals didn't have. And I drove all the way back to Kuwait and was ordered to bury them. That's the humanitarian mission in Iraq. Liberate people? When I got to Nasiriyah, we went weapons free. That means you could shoot anyone. See, we have these rules of engagement we're supposed to abide by. And normally, somebody has to have a weapon or somebody has to be in a military uniform. Well, we just went through. Jessica Lynch had just happened. We didn't know it at the time. And, they wanted vengeance. Well, of course, I'm saying this. Military terms, they wanted to secure the town. So when we went through, the colonel said, we're going weapons free. That means after whatever time he set, anything was fair game. So I sat across the bridge from Nasiriyah and I listened for 12 hours as our tanks and our amphibious assault vehicles, which we use in the desert, it's weird, and our gunships went through and decimated this town. Men, women, children, donkeys, it didn't matter. If it was moving, if it was outside, if it didn't get the word that we had decided to do this, it died. And let me tell you, it did. I know, and unfortunately, it has been done in all of our names. And nothing has changed 4 years later. 655,000 Iraqis have died. This is the population of Vermont. Every day that we are there, we inflame the insurgency. When I went there, yes, I faced combat, but that was from conventional forces that were under Saddam Hussein. There was no insurgency. When I went back a year later, suddenly there's an insurgency. Why is this? Because people resent living under foreign military occupation. I ask any one of these people standing along this wall, what would they do if another country came in and occupied America? I'm sure they would be the first ones to be picking up the guns. It is just that simple. And yet we want to bring democracy. The Iraqis have spoken. Every bomb that goes off, as much as it breaks my heart, is an Iraqi speaking. Get the hell out of our country. We disposed Saddam. Turns out he didn't have the weapons. So be it. Give Iraq back to the Iraqis. It's all we have now is this sick cycle of violence. that just violence begets violence. I've seen it. It just goes on and on and on. A Marine dies, buddy next to him wants revenge. He goes out, an Iraqi dies, they want revenge. It will never end as long as we are there. If we want the war to end, if we want Iraq to have stability and peace and prosperity, we need to leave. Thank you.